If you go to parts of Oakland, like East Oakland in the 1940s and 50s, were industry, manufacturing. In the 20s and 30s, you had Del Monte Foods, you had bakeries, you had all kinds of companies. You had auto companies, big auto plants, manufacturing in Oakland. And starting with the 60s, late 60s, it was deindustrialized. All the industry was taken out. And what does East Oakland look like today? And I've done 7 ride-alongs with the East Oakland police to learn firsthand what's going on. And you can go on any corner and get guns. You can go on any corner and get fentanyl. The homelessness is out of control. It's one of the worst crime areas of the city. Gangs. And think you're in a third world, undeveloped country if you go. And if people say, well, that costs money, well, what is money for? Is it to go to your grave with? Or is it to be used as a means to progress, to make new development? And as I know you know, Scott, and we've talked before, the American system of economics is about investing in new development, in new technology, in new spin-offs that increase the quality of human life. That's what you do with credit.
Right.
And I think that's what I've been trying to get across to people here in Oakland is you got to get away from this monetarist, way that they think about economics, which even the better people are completely monetarist. They went to too many business schools.
Yeah, right. Right.
Hello and welcome to Take Control of Your Liberty with Scott Tregurtha, where we help critical thinkers by giving you the most true and accurate information we can find, which they should be giving you on mainstream media, but are not. So you can decide for yourself and take control of your liberty, your freedom, and your future. And now, here is Scott Tregurtha.
Hello, everybody. Today, I'd like to welcome back Mindy Pechenuk, who is now running for mayor of Oakland, California. I realize my audience is nationwide, but Mindy is a perfect example of what we all should be electing in our cities. So watch, listen, and learn by her example and run or vote accordingly. Hi, Mindy. Welcome back to Take Control of Your Liberty.
It's great to be back at this time. It's just so exciting. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. And yes, things have changed quite a bit since the last time we had you on, in a very good way.
Mm-hmm.
So now I know you went through some of this on the previous interview, but just to get us started, how about if you give just some background, your political background, and what led you up to where you are right now?
Sure. As people know, I'm running for mayor of Oakland currently, which is in a special election. And what got me here was a very interesting path, not your normal path. You would say I didn't come up in the parties. But being trained as a classical musician, which I am, I'm a bassoonist. I also, because of my grandmother, who told me when I was 8 years old, you need to leave this world a better place than you found it, which really struck home to me and sort of stayed with me through thick and thin. And when I was in graduate school in music, which I was very unhappy with there, I ran into Lyndon LaRouche. And finally, a political fighter that cared about the principles that founded this country, that founded the Renaissance, that was about the human creative mind and about the principles that what makes us in the image of God with a creative mind in a creative universe. So I joined forces with LaRouche, and that led me to now being here in California. And as a result of that, and being 73 years old, and living in Oakland, I decided with my husband it was time to step up to run for office. And with President Trump coming in 2016 as president, that changed the whole field. And for me, it represented an opening of a fight that we could now make, having somebody like Trump in the White House. And having him there now is really incredible. And I actually led the movement with my friends here in California to get Trump elected in California this time around. And which is a group we put together called California MAGA. And I can tell you right now, California turned Trump. Now, we didn't win every county, but we turned many, 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 many counties to Trump. And people didn't expect it, but I think Trump knew it, because Trump, when he came here in 2024 to the Republican convention, he said, if we could just get rid of the mail-in ballots and get the water flowing, California would be good. And he's right. And so I decided to get into run for office last time for state assembly. Then I ran for city council at large. And now I'm running for mayor. And the more you run, the more you have a seat at the table. And now it's a good seat at the table to have with Donald Trump.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And he really has changed the climate for everybody, for the whole country. And it's very conducive to what you're doing. And you spoke of LaRoche and the creative aspect of man, right? And that's exactly what Trump is.
Exactly.
In case people haven't noticed, he's
right.
He became wealthy from creation, not from slick sales or anything like that. I mean,
no, for him, it was never about the money. It was about building great things.
Right.
It was about developing great cities. It was about, how do we advance mankind? And you see that now with his presidency. I mean, President Trump has tremendous love for this nation and for all of humanity. And I think we're seeing that in everything he's done, given that he's only been in office 1 month. It's pretty amazing.
It's moving very fast. Now, with that being said, what is your plan as far as when you become mayor to mesh into what Trump's doing? How will you dovetail into that?
Very directly. First of all, one of the things that I want to do is bring Elon Musk and his Doge team to Oakland. As I've been saying to people, everybody knows Oakland is bankrupt. We're bankrupt because of decades of horrible leadership, which either went into financial speculation, went into bond bailouts, took down the industry, took down the manufacturing. You look at companies like PG&E right now. That's our utility company, electric company, which, our utility rates are going off the charts here, our electric rates. And there's been a big move, and PG&E moved from San Francisco into Oakland, supposedly, they say, to help reduce the costs. So we're going to get a cheaper building in Oakland. Well, they moved into Oakland, and our rates have gone up. So, and Oakland is a big city on the green agenda because of the leadership of the city. And so we got to bring somebody like Elon in and his team that can go through, just like he's done to the federal government, to go through Oakland and look at the budget, look at the financing, and cut out all this speculative and, programs like the green agenda, DEI, and all this, which I think they're going to go a little bit bankrupt soon because of what President Trump is doing. But as mayor, doing that, what I want to reinstate is to bring industry and manufacturing back to Oakland. I mean, we've got to create a source of production again and give people productive jobs in skilled labor. People often say to me, how are you going to deal with homelessness? Because if you haven't been to Oakland recently, I just want to take a minute and describe, because if you don't live here, you can't understand how destroyed this city has become. If you go to parts of Oakland, like East Oakland in the 1940s and 50s, were industry, manufacturing, In the 20s and 30s, you had Del Monte Foods, you had bakeries, you had all kinds of companies. You had auto companies, big auto plants, manufacturing in Oakland. And starting with the 60s, late 60s, it was deindustrialized. All the industry was taken out. And what does East Oakland look like today? And I've done 7 ride-alongs with the East Oakland police to learn firsthand what's going on. And you can go on any corner and get guns. You can go on any corner and get fentanyl. The homelessness is out of control. It's one of the worst crime areas of the city. Gangs. And you just think you're in a third world, undeveloped country if you go to East Oakland. And think of the difference between the two images of Oakland, what it was in East Oakland, what it is today. So I want to bring back the industry. I'm going to give tax incentives. I'll do what Trump is doing, just like he's giving tax incentives, to bring American industry back to America, to get our manufacturing going, to get our production going. I will follow his lead in both doing the Doge work and bringing the industry and manufacturing back, giving tax incentives. I think we have a lot of we could do in terms of actually going after the fentanyl. I love the fact that President Trump has declared drug cartels as terrorist organizations. I want to bring his help into Oakland to go. I mean, we have big, serious drug problems in Oakland. Fentanyl, as I was told by some of the police, when the new shipment of fentanyl comes in because of the number of calls they get for Narcan. That's how bad it is. You have 50 illegal cannabis warehouses functioning in Oakland. I want to bring in the federal help because the police can't deal with it themselves because of the ordinances of our city. They don't have the resources to go in and shut them down. That's the other thing. I want to change the ordinances of Oakland, which will allow the police to do their job and get rid of the oversight commissions, which are tying our police hands, where they're more under investigation than the criminals. And the other thing I want to solve is the question that we don't detain a lot of the people that get picked up for crimes. They get picked up over and over again. They're on drugs, they're mentally ill, and they get released right away back on the street. This has to stop. And that's what I know President Trump wants to do. And I want to bring in his federal help because you can't do this just within Oakland yourself. It's too massive. But with federal help, and I want to work with President Trump, even though this is not a job of the mayor, but I don't believe a mayor's job should be restricted to doing little things. I want to work with him to go after the offshore drug havens. A lot of the drugs are run in these offshore money markets, and I think you had my friend Robert Ingram on recently, and he wrote the book Unconditional Surrender on the drug trafficking. I don't have a copy right here. It's over there. And which is a tremendous book, and I recommend people reading it and getting it because Bob outlines how the offshore markets and the drug cartels, the political networks, the banks, and the human trafficking are all centered and run from there. And I believe if we could shut that down with federal and international help, with sealing the borders like Trump is doing, then with the kind of work we could do inside of a city like Oakland, we could actually shut down the drugs. And that would play a major role with the industrialization. That's how you're going to deal with the problem. So that's how I see just off some of the things. There's more I could say, but working with President Trump.
Absolutely. And can you say the name of that particular book of Bob's again?
Yeah, it's called Unconditional Surrender. I'm looking.
Yeah.
I have a copy in my bookcase. I usually have one right here by my desk, but it's over in my bookcase. It's called Unconditional Surrender.
It's going to be on my website, and I read that book. That's very good.
It's an excellent guide to. And here in California, I'll just add one more thing in if I can on this question.
Sure. Sure.
I'm going to actually be sponsoring a town meeting, hopefully next Saturday, on the fentanyl question from my campaign. And people don't realize, but in California, you actually have drug cartels.
Right.
In Siskiyou County and down in San Bernardino, you actually have, with their fortresses, with their guns, like in Siskiyou County, you have 2 sheriffs trying to deal with a whole drug cartel network. Impossible. And yet the governor, the attorney general, do nothing to aid in actually shutting. Oh, they may, with pressure, pick up some drug pusher here and there. But if I were, just even as mayor, I would want to work with Siskiyou County and get full help from them, from the federal government, because you need to go in there. This is armed drug cartels to the hilt. And so I just wanted to add that in for viewers who don't really know the dynamic here in California.
Yeah, that's good you did that. And yeah, I realize everybody realizes your governor is definitely not helping things. In fact, I wonder if he's working for the cartels. I mean, actually, wouldn't put it past him because
Yeah.
I'm not naive. But uh, you would think so.
You
If
would
you
think
just
so
go,
by these.
yeah, just look at what he does. The same with Biden. They got to be working for the bad guys or else they are very stupid. You'd have to be just plain dumb to do what they do and expect a different result. So I'm actually giving them credit for being smart by accusing them of being criminals. But that's another story. But and yeah, I know what you mean. I lived in Treasure Island way back though to 2002 for like 6 months, and I had to do business in Oakland, and it was terrible then. At least the part I had to go to. There were drug dealers on the corners, and it was downtrodden and all that. And this has happened. Of course, Oakland is not an isolated city in all this. It's like every major city in the country. I was born in Trenton, New Jersey, and raised outside of it in a suburb. And they have a bridge that crosses the Delaware River there. It says Trenton. It says Trenton makes and the world takes. And they eventually got so they couldn't even afford to turn the lights on that sign.
Wow.
And then the slogan became what the world refuses, Trenton uses. So, it's Trenton's like another Oakland, and there's a million of them all over the country. But yes, and what you plan to do, the climate that Trump has put here, which is growing, we're having actual climate change now, right? Makes it so very conducive to do what you want to do.
Right.
And I hope we get mayors elected all over the country that will do the same thing. And I think we see that coming.
I think so.
I think we're on that trend. Now, kind of a different subject, but it is a subject of mayorship, if that's a correct term. Now, we got the basics there. I mean, production, energy, and production, and that kind of thing, and also putting the ethics in the area are a big part of what you plan to do, and it's what Trump's doing. But then we've got it's all related. Now I'm going to switch over to a little bit of a result of the poor mayoralship that's been going on in governance, period. Now, how would you compare, if you were the mayor, if what happened in LA with those fires, how would you have handled that in Oakland differently from the mayor in LA?
Oh, that's a real question, because Oakland, actually in 1991, I believe that was the year, had the Oakland Hill fires, which were like what hit LA. And Oakland Hills is up in part of Oakland, which there aren't many roads out of the city, out of that area. And it was devastation, just like down there. It was this, fortunately, it did not go past the hills into Oakland proper, where I am. But we almost had a case of that just recently, where there was another fire. It wasn't devastating. They were able to control it. But had the winds been as bad as they were in LA, I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Boy.
And this gets back to a fundamental question. First of all, you have to have upkeep of your fire department. What the city council did recently, this is like last month, because we have a $129 million deficit they're trying to fill. They shut down 2 of the fire departments. So we had 3 fire departments that have been shut down. There were 4 more slated to shut down this month. The city council is trying to avoid that by moving money from one place to another, which isn't going to really solve the problem. Just like it didn't solve the problem when they thought they could sell the Coliseum and bail out the $129 million, which never happened. So as mayor, what you have to do is what should be done. First of all, you have to go in and clean out a lot of the underbrush, a lot of the garbage. I mean, we have streets full of garbage in Oakland. You wouldn't think this is 2025, but you have to. And there's an area where you have the eucalyptus trees, which are very easily catch on fire. That's what happened in the most recent fire. So you have to have proper maintenance. You have to increase the fire department. They're very skilled guys. They're good, but you need more of them. And you need, I think, this is a bigger project. You need to actually build housing that I think has fireproofing. I mean, it's not out of the question, if we can build rockets that can go to the moon, that there is materials you can use on Earth in construction.
Yeah,
it's
there
something
are.
one of my friends was telling me in Japan, they actually have sprinkler systems between the houses. So that if there's a fire that starts, you have built-in sprinkler systems. Now, I haven't explored that yet, but these are kind of basic things you'd want to do. What Bass didn't do in L.A., in fact, she wasn't even in town when the fires broke out. She was too busy in Ghana, is you would have to do this kind of, constant upkeep, constant rebuilding the city. I mean, this city needs a lot of rebuilding, but that's some of what I would do as mayor, so that you try to do something preemptively. And if people say, well, that costs money, well, what is money for? Is it to go to your grave with? Or is it to be used as a means to progress, to make new development? And as I know you know, Scott, and we've talked before, the American system of economics is about investing in new development, in new technology, in new spin-offs that increase the quality of human life. That's what you do with credit.
Right.
And I think that's what I've been trying to get across to people here in Oakland, is you got to get away from this monetarist, way that they think about economics, which even the better people are completely monetarist. They went to too many business schools.
Yeah, right. Right. And the way they've been thinking is, and I think you just brushed on some of it a little while ago, how to juggle the money, right? Rob Peter to pay Paul. Instead of making the pie bigger, we need to increase the production and financial base is what we need to do. It's like, yes, it takes money, but you're also working on how to produce the money. Correct?
Correct.
Can you go into a little bit about what your plan is for that?
Yeah, my plan is that it's sort of like multifaceted. It's because of the complexity of the situation. So one thing is that I would ensure that we start right away in bringing the industries in. we have to, obviously there's only certain things I can know without getting inside the budget, inside the finances to see what's really going on, But from what I know, like the next city over is Alameda. Now, Alameda doesn't have the problems Oakland has. Alameda just, a fusion energy company just started a business in Alameda,
Great.
And that's like literally next door. Now, why can't, my idea is this is what Oakland has to do. And we have to reach out, and that means PG&E is going to be very upset because right now they have a monopoly here. And so what I want to do is reach out to these industries and see what we can do to bring in the 21st century. Now, it's going to take a lot of planning, because you have to look at where in the city can you go? Can we use one of my friends has an idea of the port. We have a very active port, which I think could be even more utilized than it is, the Port of Oakland. And you could bring in companies that normally you're shipping in finished products. Well, why not make the products in Oakland instead of shipping them in? These are the kind of investigations that I want to take on. At the same time, I think cutting out, we're going to have to do some cutting and say, not to Meals on Wheels like the city council just did. They just cut the budget on Meals on Wheels. I mean, you see that get the picture, the poor, the people who are physically disabled, they're at the bottom of the chopping block. Huh?
Right.
And so you want to back up the small businesses. That's the other thing in Oakland that you need to do, because if you walk downtown Oakland, or if you go to the Chinatown area, you go to Little Saigon, you go almost anywhere in Oakland, almost all the shops are shut down. They never recovered. And, and you can go on a block, let's say there's 10 stores, 4 or 5 are shut down. The other couple are locked up because you have to knock to get in because of the crime. And it's a very, we have to get these small businesses and medium businesses back in shape. We can deal with the crime problem. As I say, the crime problem is not a crime problem, it's a leadership problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are the kinds of measures to get a solid economic base. And then what you have to look at is you got a lot of people that are homeless here. And we have to create, for those who are not destroyed on drugs or mentally ill, we need to have job training. I want to see skilled job training for those. Or if they have skills, how can we open up get them into the jobs that they need to have? If they're mentally ill and on drugs, we need to get them into rehabilitation, into different kinds of health institutions. And if we have to keep them there the rest of their life because they're that destroyed, we're going to do it. We're not going to have people living on our streets. I want to stop Oakland from being a sanctuary city. Part of why you can't do any of this is because it's a sanctuary city. I mean, a police officer cannot even ask somebody if they're a citizen or not, whether they're legal or not, because we're a sanctuary city. I mean, so that's what I mean. It's multifaceted. But that's what I would do as mayor. And that's why I need to be mayor, because right now everybody else who's running is still playing in the sandbox. Either keeping keeping the bad policies going or trying to fix it with baby steps.
Right. And they're definitely in the sandbox. They're not thinking outside of the sandbox, as Trump is doing and as you are doing. Mm-hmm. And so you've got, to me, it sounds like you've got the ideas of how to handle the symptoms, the results of our bad economy and governance, but also you have a plan on how to produce the money to pay for all that. All these things cost money, yes, and that's what they'll whine about. Well, that all costs money. That's because they're not thinking, they're worried about working with the same small pie. They're not talking about making the pie bigger, and you are, and Trump is, and you're all in alignment that way. Mm-hmm. And I think that's perfect. I mean, what more could somebody. They got somebody with good ideas to how to make things better, and plus the plan on how to supply the funds to make things better, to do those things.
Yeah.
So, to me, you can't beat it, and that's exactly what people should be doing. Now, one thing, of course, right now the trend in the country is going toward thinking that way.
Right.
That's why they got Trump elected, because we were kind of brought to our knees here with how bad things got. But what got us this way, and what's going to get us out of this, is not only they're learning through the school of hard knocks right now. That's what we're all learning by right now, because we've seen how bad it is we had to suffer, and now we're trying to climb out of it. But basic education is what is going to make things better, and that's what got us into this mess. What they did to the educational system, starting back around probably when you and I were in school.
Yep.
And it's gotten pathetically worse since then. So people don't even know how to think with these ideas we're talking about right here. So the educational system needs to become better. Now, one thing you are running on is educational reform. Can you tell me a little bit about what your plan is there?
Yeah, it's a little tricky in Oakland because, as somebody pointed out to me, the mayor is not supposed to be involved in education. That is up to the school boards and the Oakland Unified School District. But I don't believe that. I don't think that way. I think the mayor has to have some discussions with the Oakland Unified School Board, which, by the way, is also bankrupt.
Okay.
Yeah, and my view of education goes back to our founding fathers. Goes back to, look, it's a tragedy that our children today are being, let me put it this way, lied to, that they're not getting the kind of education Alexander Hamilton had or Ben Franklin. And I want to restore that, which means going back. We're not going to have transgender classes. Okay.
Good start.
Okay. We're not going to have discussions on LGBTQY, whatever. Right. And that's why I'm very happy that President Trump is going after all this DEI and this other, transgender and all this stuff. All of this is a culture brought in to destroy our children. I want to go back not just to reading, writing, and arithmetic, okay? I want to go back to what I learned from Lyndon LaRouche, very much so, years and years ago. Go back to original sources. Our children need to be able to read Plato. They need to learn foreign languages. They need to be able to study, my passion, classical music. We should have a chorus in every school. We should have an orchestra in every school. It's part of not cell phones in every school, okay? And
Right.
we need to create thinking children who have critical judgment to know what principles are. How is our universe, going towards higher orders of good, not going towards, we're not in an entropic universe, we're in a negentropic universe. That's why I support Elon Musk and Trump on the space program. I think if we brought back a space program in full like Trump and Musk want to do, and we brought that space program into our classrooms, like the better side when Kennedy was alive and president when we were kids, I was totally excited about the space program. Not that I understood rocketry at the time, but, I understood the beauty of the horizons of the mind, that we could do all these wonderful things. So this is the kind of reform in education. That's why I want to shut down a lot of these NGO, nonprofit programs. Look, in California, we have a problem. Our kids are way behind. It's not the only place, but from here now. So where we have kids in 8th grade reading at 2nd grade. We're way behind in even the basics, math and reading. We don't even have enough teachers in a lot of the class. A friend of mine is a teacher, and she's told me in her school, kids are sitting in a classroom with no teacher. They don't have enough teachers. So the first thing is we got to, again, these school boards are going to have to, and I can't do it as mayor, but I'll have the discussion with them. They got to clear out the debt. If it declares a bankruptcy reorganization, do a bankruptcy reorganization like the city needs to do. And we're going to start anew, and we're going to get proper education going, not, and we're going to give these kids they're our future. Their minds are our future. And if we're not developing that and that, so as mayor, I can't legislate it, but I'm going to have that discussion with people. And I'm going to have the discussion with the population. I want to put out 2 or 3 times a week a discussion email to the citizens. I want to have an open door policy where they can come and visit me. I want to have town hall meetings on a regular basis. Come talk to the mayor, so that so the population can be brought in against this bureaucracy that exists. And that's what I would do for education. And we're going to need remedial classes, but not these liberal programs. You got so many help the children programs in Oakland, and yet our children can't read. So what are these programs doing? We don't need all these programs. We need a good education system to educate them and get the remedial classes inside the school systems to bring those who need to be brought up to snuff, there as we advance the other students. So it's got to be a 2-tiered kind of policy.
Right, exactly. And what comes to my mind after hearing you just now is how are kids going to grow up to make good voting decisions when they can't even read past a 2nd grade level?
Good point.
I mean, how do they know what's going on?
You want to hear? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go
no,
ahead.
Just you triggered a thought in my mind, Scott, when you said that. Here in Oakland, it's the law of the land that 16 and 17-year-olds have been given the right to vote in school board elections. Okay?
Yeah. Well, and you know who got that passed? People who were brought up close to illiterate, more than likely, or at least politically or educationally, what's the word? Morally illiterate. Let's put it that way.
Very well said. Well said. And I was in a fight this year to stop it, and it came from a referendum that passed like in 2010 or something like that, and now they finally implemented it here and in, I think, also Berkeley. That's how.
Right. And as mayor, there is a lot you can do without directly legislating educational functions. And I mean, can you imagine if they told Trump, well, you can't have anything to do with education because of this, and this? Like, oh yeah, okay, well, let me count the ways around that.
Right, exactly. Try to stop me from doing it.
Right. And of course there are certain pressures you can be brought to bear. You can, and of course it'll be up to you, but of course you can, when you hold these town hall meetings, you can request that people from the Board of Education be there to answer questions of the public and so on, right? I mean, and the people will vote. You don't have to, they'll just, you can just set the stage for it.
Exactly right.
And you will. This is going to be great. And yes, and the kids need to learn more about why it's great to have a space program and go to the moon and Mars. It's not just an Olympic sport for the fun of it. It's the same reason that Columbus had to come over and discover America. And if these explorers didn't do what they did, we wouldn't even be here. And plus, in the meantime, even though we won't be here by the time we create civilizations on other planets, it's a great game to play in the meantime. I mean, it's slightly better than war, would you not say?
I'd say 100% better than war.
Yeah. I'm being sarcastic, of course.
Yeah.
A race to the moon is much better than a race to death. So now I think we've gathered almost as much as one could as to what the benefits are you're providing. I think it's hands down. If people listen to your competitors in this race, it's just hands down. You're well ahead. Except they need to understand why.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they are more and more. But now we come down to you actually getting elected. Now, you're in a system that correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's called ranked choice voting,
Correct.
correct? Can you explain how that works?
Yes, unfortunately, it's the most insane voting system I've seen it in my lifetime. I'll give a concrete example. And most people don't know how to vote ranked choice voting, first of all. So there's tons of mistakes that get made. What you have is, like in my race right now, there's 10 candidates running. Now, when you go to vote, out of the 10 candidates, they're listed. You get to rank 5 of the 10. Not 10 of the 10 even, but only 5 of the 10. So what you do is, let's say you want to vote for me as number 1. Then you want to vote for Joe for number 2. Then you get to vote for number 3, 4, and 5. So you can vote for 5 people. And you're ranking them. Who's your first choice? Who's your second choice? Who's your third choice, fourth, and fifth choice? Then what happens is voting's over, right?
Right.
The candidate with the lowest number of votes gets knocked out. So what happens to let's say, whoever voted for them and voted for the 4 other choices, their votes go to everybody else and distributed among all the other candidates as tallied.
How do they get distributed?
All by computer logarithms.
Really?
Yeah. Then what happens is it'll go to the second round. So the next person who has the next lowest amount of votes gets knocked out. Their votes get redistributed according to how people voted. Then they go to the third round. The next lowest gets knocked out, and their votes get redistributed. And that happens 9 times because it's 10 candidates. So the only thing is, if someone gets 50 plus 1 in the first round, they win, but that's very rare. So it's a greatly insane system where somebody who wins, like I can tell you this from when I ran for city council. Some people voted for me first, okay? I didn't have the lowest number. I got knocked out in round 4 or something. But somebody who voted for me first voted for somebody I would never support for second. So my vote that second would go to the person, who I would never support. And people don't really understand who they're voting for in this kind of system. And so they don't understand how it's distributed. And if you only vote for one person, and once that person is knocked out, then everything is I think it's called an undervote, or I forget the technical name. It's your vote doesn't count anymore. So it's not a 1-to-1, one person, one vote, where your vote actually counts. And most people don't know how to fill out the ballot. Sometimes they put the one person they want all the way across, all 5 times. That doesn't work. So it's an insane system. I'd love to get rid of it in Oakland. And as mayor, that's one thing I would petition for. The city council has to put a referendum on the ballot and has to get voted for. But now I think most people would vote for it because most people don't like ranked choice voting. And it's the most unfair process of electing somebody.
It is.
And so, that's ranked choice voting. If it makes sense, until I actually ran for office in the ranked choice election, which was the city council at large race, I didn't even understand it completely. And only once I ran in a ranked choice election, now they say this time around they're going to have 10 spots for 10 candidates, but it doesn't solve the problem. It's a system that doesn't work, and it's not meant to work.
And when you say rounds, is that what's a round? Is that they vote 10 times
When
or
you go, well, when you go to the poll, you're looking at your ballot. You have 10 candidates in this case, and say 10 spots if you had 10. And so you can, in your ballot, you rank, if you rank 10 names according to your priority of liking them. So the way the computer works is that once the voting is all in, everything is closed. Actually, it doesn't, well, there's another complication, but I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, say April 15th, okay, that's election day, it's supposed to be over. That night, the ballots are totaled. The candidate that gets the least amount of votes is then knocked out of the race, and their votes are redistributed. So now they've got to go to they call those rounds. So now they go to the next round.
and when you
which is
say they go to the next round,
the computer, the logarithm
computer.
on the computer.
So the computer is producing these rounds.
Right,
Everybody votes once, but
right,
the computer puts it through these rounds.
right. And here's the
Got it.
catch. Because of the county we're in is a voter choice county, mail-in ballots are counted for a week after the election date, if they're so-called postmarked by election day. So it keeps changing for another week because of the mail-in ballots coming in, which changes everything. So you don't really know anything for another almost 2 weeks after election day, how it all pans out. Now, there was an Oakland school board race recently, which was done by ranked choice, because all Oakland elections are ranked choice. And I think they claim it was the computer, but somebody has to set the computer. They forgot to pull a lever to deal with the fact that if somebody doesn't put anybody in first choice, the second choice is supposed to go to first choice. And they forgot to pull that lever. And so the election elected somebody who actually didn't win the election, and it was completely challenged. What a waste. Waste of time, waste of money, waste of leadership. That's the worst part.
Yeah, that system is wide open for human error and probably even computer error and fraud.
Right.
Literally. Gee, you wouldn't think that's probably not intentional, huh? Oh, excuse my cynicism. But
Right.
I guess you've just got to get so much, make it too big to rig. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's a popular saying these days.
That's Trump did it.
Yes, exactly. That's how he won. I'm sure there was fraud in there, but he overcame it. We overcame it.
Yep.
So, okay, well, now we know pretty much what you stand for and what you intend to do once you get in there. And we've also gone through the maze people have to go through to actually get you elected. Is there anything else you'd like to say about what you're planning to do in your election?
I'll just conclude with this, Scott, that I think this is a tremendous moment in history that we've really come to. And in spite of all the problems I defined that Oakland has, I think with President Trump doing what he's doing top down in every area, what Elon Musk is doing, what Trump is doing with Putin and working together with Putin is so tremendous. I mean, they want to not only stop war, they want to collaborate on the space program. They want to undo everything that Obama did. You know, Trump reaching out to pull together, the leaders of the world, China, and India, and work together from the American system sovereign standpoint. And this, I think it's such an optimistic moment that I just encourage everybody, hey, leave the sand in the sandbox and come on outside. It's a great place to be, not in the sandbox. And it's a great moment to challenge all of ourselves. I mean, running for mayor is challenging, but it's great to challenge yourself, to do things that you haven't done before, to seize this moment, to give future generations a real future. That, and I think that's very much on Trump's mind, which is why he has Elon Musk, his sons, J.D. Vance. He's really, Kash Patel. He's really actually bringing about a new generation of leadership. And I think that's just so important. So as mayor, I would hope to unleash that in Oakland, because there's a talent around, but we got to get out of the normal way that people just keep, wanting to keep the same box together. So I just say that, this is a great moment. I think California and Oakland are going to join the 21st century, and it's just going to take more hard work, but that's a good thing. And I thank you, Scott, for having me on. And it's and if anybody wants to reach me, please reach out.
Yes, and I'll include your website in our
Great.
in my show notes.
Great.
And probably some other information. And yeah, everybody, if you like what's in the sandbox, I guess stay there. But most of us don't anymore. So
Right.
if you think things could be better, vote for Mindy. And I thank you very much, Mindy, for all you're doing and all you have done for all these years, and for coming on my show and making yourself known to everybody.
Okay. And thank you, Scott.
All right, you take care.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. I hope you all enjoyed this discussion with Mindy and are going to vote for her if you reside in Oakland. And if not, maybe she's an inspiration for you to run or to vote for someone with similar qualifications in your city or town. Mindy is very much a pro-MAGA candidate, and you can get her specific qualifications at electmindy.com. Also, her information is on my website at www.takecontrolofyourliberty.com. Also, please like, subscribe, and share so you and others can learn more about how to take control of your liberty.